Hey, we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today we're talking about Menace. This is an interesting one for a very specific audience. It's had a lot of buzz on Steam. It has like an epic number of wish lists, so when it launched, we figured we'd jump in and see what the deal is. It is technically still in early access, that's this release, but it's already got a lot going on. Now, this is from Overhyped Studios, who were behind a medieval tactics strategy game called Battle Brothers that had a hardcore dedicated PC fan base and garnered quite a following. So now, with Menace, they're taking on military tactics with this cool sci-fi flair. Now, at first glance, you might think this is like an XCOM style game, and that's the easiest direct comparison, but it's not. There's a lot more than that. It's bigger scale tactics, some management, and just intense military sim. It's brutally difficult also, nearly impenetrable for some people, and you can play it for hours and hours. Now, I like my strategic games, and it's a wide genre. I've played my fair share of XCOM, Full Spectrum Warrior, StarCraft, Company of Heroes, but Menace is on another level of challenge and depth. Even if the game overwhelms me a little bit, I can tell. It's got some things that still make it feel really early access, but the gameplay itself and like the concept, this team has something really big on their hands for this type of audience. Menace feels old school in all the right ways, while taking advantage of modern tech, giving it an insane amount of depth. Now, even if I'm downright dog water at it, like I'm so bad, like I'll admit, our little team here, we're not experts at this genre, and it took us quite a few hours to really get the hang of things. And some of the footage here is us still learning the ropes and starting to grasp some of the concepts. It looks simple at first, but there's a lot to the game. So in this sci-fi universe, it sees you as the commander of this massive capital ship that is stranded in a kind of lawless, uncontrolled system in space called Wayback. It's a handful of planets and a handful of factions and pirates all vying for control. And you're smack in the middle of it, taking missions for them. There are 3 difficulty modes when you run it that can start from the bottom at normal mode. Yes, normal is at the bottom. And then an optional Iron Man mode, if you're so inclined. You manage stuff on the base ship screen, you look at a galaxy map, and deploy to missions on the planets. Mission objectives are generally simple, probably the only simple aspect of the game really, but they consist of like destroying or sabotaging certain enemy things, protecting certain things like bases or civilians walking around, or eliminating all enemies and extracting. From here, you plan and launch into turn-based tactical battles. You typically start with your squads and spread out into the environment and work through fog of war until you find your objectives or enemies. Now, in Menace, every decision is so important, and it's so easy to screw yourself at every step of the way. You essentially live and die by your equipment choices and your deployment pre-battle. I'll get to that in a little bit, but really every decision is so important. Placement and positioning is everything, and I think the way they have it handled here is just pretty good. Like every tile that has anything on it provides some sort of cover rating, and it's positional. So if you're standing in front of a barrier or a crate, you're protected in the front, but not really from the sides or the rear. And the game does a good job of showing you at a glance how this works when you choose tile movement. You can also be fully concealed if you move to a set of dense enough trees, allowing some enemies to not see you right away and you getting a little advantage. And positioning is just really important in combat. Accuracy matters, and like a lot of these games, you can think you have a bead on an enemy, but the game numbers don't think you do, meaning your guys are just gonna fire and completely miss and screw you. Also, there's no Overwatch style mechanic. But missing shots in Menace, that's not really a mistake you can kind of roll with and improvise and recover from. It's so important, and you have to take it so slow, whether it's choosing to fire, choosing to hunker down, or even hunker down and then use your special secondary weapon like a rocket launcher or an EMP gun. You can also use gadgets like smoke to conceal yourself and call in ordnance like an artillery strike for maximum damage and like a bigger damage radius. You can also have access to vehicles and then equip those with special weapons as well, and they help you get around quicker because your units on foot are slow as hell. And moment to moment, the game is sweaty. It's frustrating, but it still can be fun. Taking out enemies feels really good, thanks to just good visuals on enemies that are human or alien, like with blood and debris and all that. Weapons and explosions sound great, and enemies get blown to pieces when you're successful. Plus, once you start upgrading your equipment, you outfit your units with better guns, you notice those better guns. Not only visually on screen, like you can see some of their special equipment on the units, which is great, but coming in with a stronger gun, like you notice the difference right away. And that's very, very satisfying and potentially addictive. Now, again, this video is first impressions, so we're only scratching the surface. There are a lot of skirmish style encounters early on, but battles can get much larger. And I think that is a strength to the game's depth of strategy and the design of it all, because the squad and equipment system is a lot. And like I said before, like the pre-game stuff is just as important as every little decision and micro screw up you're going to do on the field in combat. Pre-battle prep is a huge part of the game, so you know your objective and you need to completely build out your squads from there. Squad leaders have their own advantages, and they lead one of your many squads filled with these expendable squaddy soldiers as you take your turns. Squad leaders can be downed, and then if you get to them before completing the mission, you can save them and then use them again after they recover from healing after a few missions. They can also die in the field, and then you lose them permanently. This can suck if you become attached to one and invested some time in them, because they all have skill trees and you can upgrade them with like better success on grouping, covering extra distance in a turn, the visibility advantages, a bunch of stuff. But you really also can't have a catch-all equipment or a catch-all squad you roll with for every encounter. Every weapon you equip is good against a certain enemy type or situation, not only like armor piercing, but also which enemies are susceptible to being suppressed, and also whether or not you'll be dealing with vehicles. Again, there are so many variables that basically every time you do a mission, you really should build out your squad leaders again from the ground up. Their armor, which weapons they're bringing, which equipment they're building, the whole 9 yards. This, I assume, is really great for strategy nerds, because again, this really comes down to it being way more military sim than XCOM style game. Back home, you can hire new squad leaders, and you can also get new weapons and equipments by completing missions and using stuff found after battle to then barter with in this weird corner of the galaxy in the black market. So like bring some alien goo to the black market tab to exchange for higher powered long range weaponry to equip your guys with. Or maybe you're looking for something to latch onto a vehicle, or just buy a bigger vehicle to transport your squads quicker. This economy seems pretty brutal right from the start, and you start with incredibly sucky equipment. So be prepared to really slog through the first few hours. You start at like -0. It is a tough uphill climb, and the first few hours can feel a little dry. You know, the deck is stacked against you. You don't know what's going on, you're learning the game, and you really, really suck. And mission objectives are so simple and a bit repetitive that when you don't have like a cool APC or a truck and a bunch of squads, it kind of just feels like you're ambling around until you get murdered. Plus, sometimes it's just not quite clear just how reliable good cover is, and it can feel like some enemies' line of sight is inconsistent, meaning some subtleties in the game's rules are a bit unclear. But I love that squad leaders all have personalities and cool character art and bios. It feels nice and kind of old school in like the best way. Even if their callouts, like their voice callouts on the battlefield, get kind of repetitive, I just like that there's a good feeling of identity here. And that comes down to the entire overview menu. Your big capital ship can be upgraded with resources, giving you all types of good passive and active bonuses, both in the field and just in general. Also, there's a dedicated faction screen that shows your standing with each of them, which depends on missions you take on and your success in them. And what I really like is that you'll often be presented with these cool like RPG or choose your own adventure style choice moments. Like you'll get a thing that pops up and says, hey, your ship scanners came across a survivor. You brought him in, but he looks suspicious. Do you take him in or cast him out of the airlock? And then you get to make a choice. And that type of stuff will typically give you a little reward or some faction standing changes. And they're just written really well and do a good job of fleshing out the world and giving the game a little personality. It's a solid start, and I'm optimistic of the game's future. A lot of my criticisms are things that the developers have acknowledged or are going to work on for the early access, and that's good. They seem to be really up on things, and I commend them for that, and updates and hotfixes and all types of things come really frequently. In terms of fixes and changes, I'm looking forward to some quality of life stuff in the UI and how turns play out. It's often difficult to discern what's going to happen next and which unit is going to go, which feels unnecessary. Also, it's really hard to just tell just how screwed you are until it actually happens. Like enemies can cross a massive portion of the map and do an action in one single turn. Like then I've taken 5 steps with my crew and then an enemy truck drives in from out of nowhere across the whole map and offloads a whole army in one turn. Like, I know the game is oppressively difficult and I'm not strong enough yet, but damn. Also, I'm looking forward to cleaner base menus and more voice acting and stuff to breathe life into the character interactions more, and more squad leaders, because I can tell they really have something there. Also, I think they've acknowledged this, but more biomes are definitely needed. As you can see here on screen with the gameplay, there's only a small amount right now, and I think that generally goes with the land masses themselves and just the detail. They feel really bland a lot of the time, and I just like more going on, more clever ways to hide and stack up and hunker down with more detailed chunks of areas and terrain. Also, I think the bug alien enemy type is kind of unremarkable. Like, they're just not too exciting. That's only really noticeable when compared to fighting human enemies, which are awesome and detailed and just do so much more cool shit tactically. Then in terms of balancing, again, I'm not an expert, but I think there can be some stuff done with what I mentioned above about turns, but also the economy and the supply points which you spend to equip squads and send them out. It seems like there's potential for almost too much limitation there, but I'm not sure yet. That's just me spitballing. I also think the only bartering style trade system right now feels extremely limiting. I feel like there can be a lot more going on there. Also, a more in-depth tutorial will be great when they implement it, because right now there's a super brief one that basically just tells you how to click on enemies and kill them. Meanwhile, there's so much more to the game, obviously. It just kind of drops you into a menu with multiple full screen walls of text explaining everything, and it's not really that helpful when you're trying to get a grip on things. So really, Menace has good bones and some really cool potential. The aesthetic is there. The brutal strategy is there. And just looking at the reactions and the response of this game, the community is already there. The game has some really cool ideas with it, and a lot of surprises going on in the battlefield in game. Plus, I really like the whole capital ship overview style of things. The little story interactions, the badass squad leaders, the fact that equipment on units is actually reflected visually in game, the sound design. There's a lot of really cool stuff here, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Even if I admit I'm not completely the target audience here, I can see it. I get it. But that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. What is your experience with Menace? Are you an expert with these types of games? Did you play the demo? Have you been following the development of this closely? Do you think I just need to get good, scrub? Or maybe this is your first kind of strategy, tactics style game. Let's talk anything Menace down in the comments. We're definitely looking forward to revisiting this one in like a year, seeing how it shapes up. But for now, just hit us up, and if you like this video and you like seeing some gameplay and some first impressions, clicking the like button helps us. Thank you. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.